This is one of the few videos I have where I actually have some good news for you. And the good news is that your house is probably much stronger than you actually think it is. Now, these houses, they do really well. There's something about being a cubic shape, and there's something called crosswalls that are part of every house, and they really make them, stay strong structurally. In other words, the walls stay there, the floor stays there, everything stays there, pretty much intact. So as you see behind me in these photographs of houses, they're pretty much all there. The walls are still there, the roof is still there. In most cases, the windows aren't even broken. I remember when I was working for FEMA, I would go into these houses, and some of them were kind of pretty old and beat up to start with, and I would go in, and I was always amazed that the glass didn't even break. So houses do extremely well, and that would, probably include your house. The only thing that really happens is they slide off the foundation, and when they slide off the foundation, naturally you have a lot of problems. It tears out the plumbing, it tears out the electrical, the plaster and the sheetrock will fall off the walls. It's a pretty big problem when they do fall off the foundation. But if you can attach the house to the foundation with a good solid retrofit, you'll be in good shape. Now, people do not die in houses. It's extremely, even to get hurt in a house is practically non-existent. Now, things do fall on people. I mean, there were 6,000 injuries in the Loma Prieta earthquake, and 6,000 injuries, as far as I know, at least that's what someone at the Association of Bay Area Governments told me, they were all caused by personal property. So that would be bookcases falling on people's heads, whatever, just things falling on people, people trying to run out of the house, and then they get thrown against something. But actually having something structural hurt someone is very rare, except in the steep hillside homes, as you can see behind me here. Those can be catastrophic. Personally, I would never live in a steep hillside home, even if we're retrofitted. I just, am not comfortable living in something like that. So in this video right here, you're going to learn why it is that houses do stay together pretty well, and the structural things that cause that to happen. And I really want you to feel better about spending money on your retrofit. What you're going to learn here is that the most critical thing that you can do, and the cost is not very much relative to what you have to deal with if the house slides off the foundation, and you get all that inconvenience of, again, you have to wait about 9 months to get it put back together. It costs a fortune, etc., etc. Just to let you know that, it's not really that catastrophic if you can keep it on the foundation. Now, to let you know what happens after earthquakes, house movers come in from all over the country, and then they put the foundations under these, and they charge a lot, because they can charge a lot. And they also have, they're pretty booked up, so it takes a while for them to get there. And then after that, the contractors come in, and they can charge quadruple easily and get to get your house back into condition so you can live in it. So it's extremely inconvenient. So let's go ahead and see what it is about houses. I'm sure it's about your house as well, that protects them. Now, again, this is for your sort of your standard rectangular house. Every single house is different. I don't want to give people assurances if I haven't actually seen the house. But anyway, overall, I think the information here is really going to help you, and also allay a lot of fears you might have about your house. Now, there are two reasons why that house did so well in that earthquake. And the first one is because houses are cubes. A cube is a very, very strong geometric shape, kind of like a shoebox. So just imagine a house. The roof is the top of the cube, the walls are the sides of the cube, and the floor is the base of the cubes. Now, inside that cube, you have lots of smaller cubes. So you have bedrooms, you have bathrooms, you have kitchens, you have hallways, you have all sorts of things that are also cubic shapes. So you have all those smaller cubes within a larger cube. And so in the end, you end up with a shape that's, it's just geometrically very, very strong. If you were to take a shoebox and you throw it on the floor, not much is going to happen to it. And the same, has to do with houses as far as they're being geometrically strong. The other thing has to do with crosswalls. Now, crosswalls are the interior of your house. So, for example, just look down, usually down the middle of your house, you'll have a great big wall. The bedrooms will have walls. The bathrooms, the kitchens, there'll be walls everywhere, partition walls inside the house, and each one of those can also resist earthquake force. So just imagine, here's earthquake force coming in this direction, And then this wall, this wall, this wall, and this wall will all resist that earthquake force. And on top of that, the exterior walls will also resist that force. So that's a whole lot of wall to resist that kind of force and to, to keep the house intact. Now the same thing, when earthquake forces come in this direction, these interior walls here and here, and also on the outsides here and here, they will also resist that kind of force. So, that's why these houses do so well, is because they just have so much internal strength due to the geometric shape of the cube and also due to the earthquake resisting abilities of the cross walls inside the house. So this house is from the 1992 Ferndale earthquake in Northern California. And I was actually the first FEMA inspector in this house in 1992. And I remember looking at the house from the outside, from the street, and I thought, this doesn't look like it had a whole lot of damage. I mean, again, the windows aren't broken, the siding's still there, the roof's intact. I mean, it just looks like a regular old house. The big giveaway, though, was the stairs. So here's the top of the stairs right here, and then the house is fallen about 4 feet down to here. So that's the big giveaway, that there was a lot of damage. And then I did go inside and there was a lot of damage. So this is, again, to reinforce the fact that a cuboid shape, along with cross walls, does a tremendous amount to protect a house. And that's why we don't worry about from the first floor up, and we just worry about attaching the house to the foundations. This is the exact same house, but viewed from the inside. You can see the plaster has fallen over, all over the place on the floor. It came from the ceiling, the walls. And not only that, but the plumbing would have been torn out. The electrical would have been torn out. It'd just be, all the systems that keep a house going are all in, pretty bad condition. And this is what happens if they actually fall from the foundation. This one fell pretty far, it fell 5 feet. But when they fall, that's when you end up with all these problems. If you can keep them from falling, then the cubical structure and all the cross walls will keep it in pretty good condition. So that's why in a sidewalk retrofit, the number one concern we have is to always keep it on the foundation, keep it from falling off, and we don't worry about the rest of it. Now this house was in the National Historic Register in Ferndale, California, and when you drive into the town, you can actually look to your right-hand side and you'll see it. It's still there. I had some suspicions that they would tear it down, but again, because it was a historic building, they didn't. So anyway, this is to show again how important a retrofit is to keep it on the foundation. Now this building is actually, I think, pretty amazing. This house suffered through the Santa Cruz earthquake, very close to the epicenter, obviously suffered catastrophic damage. But look and see how the front, it's basically no damage except where it hit on the left-hand corner, and obviously that did something to the siding. And if it hadn't fallen from the foundation, it would have stayed in pretty good shape. I mean, the really, really amazing thing about this to me, and I don't quite have an explanation for it, is the windows, the row of windows right here. They're still intact. Nothing has happened to them. The walls, this is still pretty straight. The siding over on this side here is, started to, peel off a little bit. But other than that, it's in really good condition. And this again points to the fact that cross walls and a cuboid shape does a lot to protect the house. Tract houses like this have a lot of internal strength, and so long as you can keep them on the foundation, they do really well. So this is a cross-section of a house. As you can see, there's the living area right up here, and then we also have the crawl space right down here. Now in the living area we have cross walls, so bathrooms and kitchens and bedrooms and all sort of stuff in a larger house. Now all of those cross walls absorb the earthquake force, as we just saw, so it's pretty stable. All these walls really hold the house together. Now on the other hand, if you go into the crawl space right in here, you can see there are no cross walls. And so all the earthquake force, gets absorbed on the perimeter foundation only. So there's no force that goes into anything else that'll help it. So all the earthquake force comes right in here into the perimeter. It goes over here in the perimeter, and then it would also come over here into the perimeter. And that's why it is so important to strengthen the floor to a perimeter foundation connection. And that's what a retrofit is. Now remember that all those walls and the roof and and the ceiling and everything, all that weight is sitting right on top of that foundation. And because there's that much weight, when that weight tries to move in an earthquake, you really need to make sure you got a good connection there between the floor and the foundation. Otherwise, it's going to slide off. This image right here represents a perimeter foundation. So, as you can see, this would be the crawl space right in here, and you see there are no cross walls. So the only walls that we have to resist earthquake forces are on the perimeter. So we have this perimeter, and then we have this foundation, we have this foundation, and then we have this foundation up here. Those are the only thing that absorb the earthquake force. So that's why we have to have good strong connections. Now, when earthquake forces go in this direction, these two foundations must absorb all the force. And when earthquake forces come in this direction, these two foundations must resist all the force. As you can see, there are no cross walls in the crawl space to protect the house and keep it from sliding off the foundation. So that's why you need to put all of your money in the crawl space to attach the floor to the foundation, and you should be in good shape. I hope I've been able to convince you that the place to put your money to protect your home from an earthquake is in the foundation to floor connection. As you saw by the very numerous photographs, houses in general, they just stay pretty well intact. As you saw in the description of the geometry, that houses are cubes, and they have lots of cubes inside of them, and for the bedrooms and kitchens and all that, and that a cube is a very, very strong geometric shape, and also that the cross walls absorb a lot of force as well. So that all happens above the first floor, and so you shouldn't really have to worry too much about that. But a lot of force goes into the floor to foundation connection on the perimeter foundation, where you do not have cross walls, and all you have is all that force going into perimeter foundation, and really, really make sure that that's a good connection. So anyway, I hope this has been a helpful video for you. Now, there is a part 2 where I go into the science, I go into the testing that was done at laboratories, etc., to scientifically confirm what I have told you just now.